Martina, you're so good. I don't think I could ever eat like that. Or, you eat so well all throughout the year, just splurge a little. Let me be very clear that my choices around food have nothing to do with my goodness. It's a daily surrender, a daily choice to say, God, this is something you have asked of me, and I'm gonna walk in obedience, and I'm gonna walk in your way over mine. But that doesn't mean that I don't still have triggers, or that I don't still desire sweets or want to reward myself with food. And so when it comes down to this thing about me being good or not good, like all of a sudden that changes how I view myself and how I view the choices that I'm making. Think about this holiday season and it being a lot about gratitude and joy. And if you struggle with food or body image or any of those sorts of things, this can be like the most non-joy filled sort of season, because there's dread when it comes to family gatherings or holiday parties. You know you're going to be tempted. You know you're going to try to willpower through and make the good decision. Then you're probably going to struggle with it, or you're going to just give up, or you're going to give in, and then you're going to feel like crap because you gave up, but also maybe because you binged and you ate too much. And then you're going to come back in January with this like resolve to do better. I know, I've done it. Over and over and over. Let's talk about the holidays. Let's talk about what it's like to be a food addict in the holidays. Let's talk about what it's like to be a food addict in general, right? If you've watched any of my videos, you know that I have been on a almost 5-year journey through food addiction recovery. And really it's been a journey and a process for me of daily surrender to the Lord. And I know that that's kind of like a Christian term that gets thrown around a lot, but like for me, it's about saying, God knows best in every area of my life, and I want to choose his way and not my way. But that's really, really hard. And even though for me, the choices around sugar and flour have become easier over the years, the desire to still reward in certain ways and the desire to isolate and disconnect and escape from my reality still exists. For example, this tends to be a hard time of the year for me with just the weather change and the time change, and it gets dark and it's cold and I don't like it. And it's been a heavy season at work. I love and I feel honored to sit with people, but it can also be a lot to hold, especially when I feel responsible for holding that by myself. And I forget that I am carrying it. I'm like carrying things to the Lord, right? I'm holding space for people as we bring things to the Lord. Not that Martina is supposed to hold it all on her own. But, you know, if you watched any of my other videos on like my issues of pride and control and needing to do it all and be it all and whatever, you know that this is a struggle for me. So I've been in that season, and a couple weeks ago was just it was a long day. It was a long day, and I got home and all I wanted to do was binge on food. The good thing is I didn't have anything in my house, so I would have had to go to the store to actually buy stuff to binge on. But I put my shoes on, I got my mask, I had my car keys, and I was almost headed out the door. And then I had to do a heart check, because what my immediate brain was telling me is that I was wanting to do this as a reward, right? It had been a long day. You gave a lot, you poured out, and you deserve a reward for doing a good job. And rewards aren't always bad. As a food addict, it's important to me to not reward with food, because there's like this weird connection in my brain between food and pleasure and the reward center of my brain and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So I was like talking that through to myself about how you're trying to use this as a reward and you don't reward with food and blah, blah, blah. But then I had to stop for a second and I was like, is this really about reward, or is this about something else? And when I did a heart check, I realized that yes, it was a little bit about reward, but it was more about feeling overwhelmed and wanting to escape. I didn't want to feel all of the things I was feeling. I was feeling exhausted and burdened and overwhelmed, and like I couldn't hold things anymore. And and I just wanted to numb out and escape. And ultimately, that's why I wanted to binge. And I was like, okay, good self-awareness, Bettina. What are you going to do with it now? Because one way to get that need met of feeling overwhelmed is to escape and numb out. Another way to get that need met is to actually press into connection, to do the thing that my brain is telling me it doesn't want to do, the neural pathway that I've developed over the years, which is to isolate, to numb, to escape, to do all of those things, to not be in my reality. But human connection, allowing somebody else to bear that burden with me, to remember that I'm not alone, like that also fills that need. And ultimately that fills a need in a much more sustained long-term way. So I had a decision to make in that moment. I reached out, I said to someone, I feel like binging and I need to talk. And through that conversation, I was able to share my burdens with someone else. I was also able to reflect and talk both in that conversation with the person and in time with the Lord of like being so grateful for where God has placed me. It's really easy to just sit in the overwhelm and to not recognize all of those other things. It doesn't mean I wasn't still overwhelmed and heavy, but it meant that I was able to bring that heaviness to the Lord, to allow somebody else to speak life into me, and ultimately to stay connected rather than to isolate. So I know that wasn't really about holiday, but the point is that even as an addict in recovery, even as somebody who is walking this journey, there are still times when I have to do a heart check. When I realize it's not about the food, but the food is an indicator of things. As we go into the holidays, because it's such a food-driven time of year, right? Like most everything about Thanksgiving and Christmas somehow is wrapped up in food. And it can be really easy to allow our minds and our hearts to be deceived that this is a food decision. That when people are saying, oh, you're so good, I could never do that. Or when they're saying, you've been so good all year, or you've made these good choices, why not have this piece of pie or cake or Christmas cookie or whatever? You want to fit into those pair of skinny jeans, or maybe skinny jeans are out. Sorry, I'm almost 33 and skinny jeans are still in. Like, it's not about the food. I think I probably say that in like every single video I talk about around food addiction. It's not about the food. Yes, it's about the food in the sense that like there are some actual science things happening in your brain and in your body when you consume certain things. But this is about your heart. So if you can start to think about your choices in that sense, it ultimately gives you so much more power because you're not saying no to a piece of pie. What you're saying yes to is Jesus. What you're saying yes to is a way of life that ultimately is going to bring you joy. When you can say no to something and continue to experience the joy and the fruitfulness of that social interaction, like it feels like it's all wrapped up in food, but it's not. This will be a lot of holiday seasons now that I have foregone sugar and flour. And at the beginning, it was really hard because I had to sit and rewire my brain around what those interactions meant. It meant I had to be a lot more present with people, which if we're talking about family isn't always the easiest thing, right? I love my family. I have really good family relationships, but family dynamics are hard, even in the healthiest of circumstances. And at holidays, it's when like everybody is together, right? All the people that you don't see very often. And that's just a lot. I'm an introvert too, and so a lot of people is a lot. And that is where my recovery community, particularly in my first year, was so important to me. I had people who got it. I had people who said, if you need to step into the bathroom during a Christmas party and like call because you're overwhelmed and all you want to do is binge and you're triggered, like call us. People can understand to a certain extent, but if you are not walking this journey of recovery, it doesn't fully make sense. Food addiction is hard for people to understand. People don't always know what, like, Do I praise the food decisions you're making? Is that body shaming? What do I do? Like, people don't know what to do with me sometimes. Right? They're like, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot you don't eat this, when they offer me some cake. And I'm like, it's not a big deal. For me, I'm not triggered by like the food itself anymore. But I think the other thing that can be really hard about the holidays is that because so much of it is about food, there is this fear of offending somebody when you don't eat what they've made. Right? A lot of people express their love and care for us through food at the holidays. And it is our responsibility to be kind and gracious in how we decline food. You can't be responsible for other people's response to your healthy decision, to your obedient decision. If you know that what you are doing is the right decision for you, and I'm not going to say good, because it's not about you being a good person or not. It's about you making the best decision for you. And if the Lord has invited you into a journey of freedom and into a journey of surrender, which honestly, He's invited us all into, every single one of us has been, when we decide to live life with the Lord, it is a decision that we're saying, I'm going to surrender every area of my life to you. And for some of us, the biggest area of our life that He is calling us to daily is around food. And not everybody's going to understand that. But when your grandma is offering you, or your aunt is offering you her like special homemade whatever, and you just know she's going to be heartbroken if you don't eat it, that is not a reason to eat it. It's not. I want to say to those of you who have been on a journey of food for a long time, whether you know me in real life or you have watched my videos, or this is the first time you've found my channel, welcome. And I'm going to say something a little bit harsh, but I'm just direct in this space because it's my space, right? It's my channel. I can say what I want. I know folks who have been walking this journey with me. And by with me, I mean they have watched me, and they have shared with me that they believe that this is an issue for them as well, but have struggled a little bit more than I have in making it a lifestyle. And again, side note, I still struggle. I don't necessarily struggle in the same ways with like the actual food choices, but the heart motivation behind why I want to go to food for comfort still exists. It has not gone away. Honestly, I don't know that it will, because it's what drives me back to the Lord. And I don't know that He's going to take something away that He knows drives me to Him. So that's a little side nugget for free. But the one that I have heard most often from people is like, man, you're just so good and I could never. And I want to say what I hear in that. I know that this may not be what you actually think you're saying, but what you're saying is, I don't think I could ever be that obedient. And you can. Because God is not going to ask something of you that He is not going to equip you to do. Now, it does mean that you're going to have to make some hard choices. I think we think that when the Lord equips us to do something, it means it feels easy. And maybe we don't actually, like, we know that's not true, but like somewhere in the back of our brain, that's the belief that we have. And so if it actually takes surrender and sacrifice and a choice to say, like, I really, really, really want that, but I'm going to say no. Like, our American culture, we don't do that. If we really, really, really want it, we get it. We buy it, we eat it, we like it, we indulge. And COVID has taken a lot of things from us, and so we want to indulge even more in the things that we can. And you can. Like, for me, that has been one of the biggest kind of mindset things that has allowed me to stay the course of recovery, is that I could go eat a piece of cake today. I choose not to. The thing is about our cravings and those desires is they come and they go. They have a crest point. And if you can get yourself through that crest point using other resources, eventually the craving goes away. And then what you're left with on the other side of that is that joy and that freedom because you've done something that the Lord is asking of you. You have walked in obedience, and there is nothing better or sweeter than the presence of the Lord. You just got to get through your own flesh desires first. So if you don't have a recovery community, one, I would encourage you to get one. If you don't have a support person, like you only need one, find somebody. If you are somebody on here who is like, I don't feel like I could tell anybody that this is my struggle, reach out to me. I can't sponsor everybody, but I want you to know that you're not walking this alone. If you have specific questions about what I eat, how to get through the holidays, how do you talk to family about this, like the practical things, like please put those in the comments below so that I can answer them. But ultimately what I want to say to you is that the holidays don't have to be a season to dread. I believe that the Lord wants you to experience a new joy this holiday season, that you can walk in gratitude for freedom, for the journey. It is not a one and done. I think sometimes in my other videos, maybe the way that I've talked about it might make it feel like I am now on the other side of this. And this is a journey. I mean, life with Jesus, hence the title of my channel and my Instagram and all the things, adventuring with Jesus. It is not an adventure, and I intentionally don't call it that. Life for me is adventuring. It is a constant, everyday lifestyle of being with Jesus. There is a groundedness because of who I am adventuring with. That I know that God has a plan, that I know God will never let me down, that I know God loves me no matter what food decision I make, but I also trust that He has the map and that He is a trustworthy guide through this adventure. And so we adventure together into the holidays.